when did we start Bet Hashem? Bet Hashem. So first of all, in the name of Rabbi Moshe Pinto, in the name of Hashem, Rosh Chodesh Adar, that is mamash approaching us very, very quickly. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bet Hashem bless all the tzaddikim here with big bracha v'tzlacha, v'siyata d'shmaya gedola, ma'kadalmu v'chatam v'zakiatam, b'zchut tzaddik Rabbi Pinto again ba'adam, שהקדוש ברוך הוא Bet Hashem tach v'tshei parasa, v'tshei shalva, v'tshei biriyut, v'shei nachat. That this year Bet Hashem will be a year of redemption, and this year Bet Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will hear all our prayers and fulfill all our heart wishes. Amen. Kinyatzim Bet Hashem. Bam l'tova. Amen. Kinyatzim Bet Hashem. You know, Baruch Hashem, before we start the shiur, we would like to talk just maybe one moment about what a beautiful day is approaching us, and what of the month that we're all going to Be'ezrat Hashem celebrate together, how much bracha we could all achieve within the upcoming month. We know, Batai, that Be'ezrat Hashem on Friday we're all going to celebrate the holy holiday of Rosh Chodesh Adar. Now, in Batai, every single Erev Rosh Chodesh we try to give a little bit of understanding of the month. We know Zohar HaKadosh says that every single month it has its own mazal, it has its own features, its own character, and if we will be able to understand its features and its character, we could know how to act in order to achieve as much as bracha as possible in this month. So we're not going to get into all the details of the month, but maybe just to touch a few main points that we should all know. The Zohar HaKadosh says that the month of Adar and the month of Nisan are 2 months that represent not only miracles, but represent the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu interfering in our life for our own benefit. And this is where the Zohar HaKadosh actually brings 2 little details that is a little bit of a proof of how special these months are. We know that the Zohar HaKadosh says that every single month has a ladder that the month actually wears as a crown, and that ladder essentially leads the month in its path, in its character. In the book of AT RABBI it says that the month of Adar and Nisan that represent months of miracle, they both have 2 letters that lead. Kuf in Adar and Hey in Nisan, in the following month after Adar. Zohar HaKadosh says that both of these letters share one thing in common, which is unique, and something that only they two hold this characteristic. What are we talking about? Zohar HaKadosh says, if you look at all the letters in the alphabet, you will see that all the letters are actually connected. Where they're built from maybe different shapes, but all those different shapes are connected as one. The Aleph, it looks like there's 2 Yuds and a Vav, but there's a connection between them. Bet, 2, it's like a little Dalet with a line in the bottom. Connected between them. All the letters are connected, except for 2. Hey and Kuf. Where Hey is like a Dalet with a Yud, and Kuf is like a sort of a Resh with a Vav. The Zohar HaKadosh says, why are these 2 letters the letters that represent these 2 months? Because both of these letters represent 2 worlds, 2 complete different laws of nature, coming together and combining as one. And this is why we say that this is the month that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the ability, and it's already something that is embedded in the month itself, to reach his hand into our world and to bring miracles that are above the nature in the manner that in no other month of the year a person could achieve. So really, when we are approaching this month, we really need to take it seriously, of to trying our best to bring upon ourselves as much as shefa and as much as bracha as possible. So every single month there's an act that attaches to it. That this act is the act that essentially leads the month in the act that a person can do to really use the mazal of the month. Some months it's walking, some months it's talking, some months it's vision, sight, hearing. The act that leads the month of Adar, the upcoming month, is something that we can all do, and it will actually maybe even make our days much better. What is it? Tzchok. Laughing. When you want to have bracha in the month, you want to connect yourself to the pipes that are only made for the month of Adar, laugh. Maybe that's how we can say it. Adar, when Adar comes in, you have to labot v'simcha, even though that the first half of the month is not necessarily a good month, a good few days, because Bnei Yisrael were suffering at this period of time. But still we need to laugh, and we have to be with big happiness. Why? Because if you want to be able to absorb all the shefa that is already embedded in this month, you need to be laughing. So B'at Hashem, in the merit of Tzaddik Rabbi Chaim Pinto, in the merit of all Tzaddikim, we'll have the ability to laugh the entire month of Adar and to be happy the entire month of Adar, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'at Hashem, will act in that exact same nature of the month by putting His hand in our world and changing a lot of the natures. He will do so, B'at Hashem, only for bracha and atzlacha and b'siyata d'shmaya, amen, kinyatzu B'at Hashem. You know, Abotai, every single week we try to tackle a different subject of something that we could practically use to greaten our life, to use as a tool to get through hard days, easy days, how to make the good days last longer. But you know, Abotai, this week we couldn't help ourselves but to get into the subject of Parashat Mishpatim. So you know, Abotai, that Baruch Hashem, we're reading in the upcoming Shabbat. First, it's a very special Shabbat. There's 3 Sefer Torahs, which is already very rare. But in the world of the Kabbalah, Parashat Mishpatim is one of the most important, one of the biggest, and one of the deepest. Why is that? Because the Zohar HaKadosh says that the entire concept of slavery, 6 years you work, on the 7th you will be released, that whole subject of this week's parasha is actually all talking about what? It's all talking about the neshamot. And specifically, the order of the neshamot, and as a main concept, Gilgulim. Where throughout the entire Torah of the Kabbalah, whenever a person wants to quote a place that talks about Gilgulim, which are in English, reincarnation, it quotes Parashat Mishpatim. So when we pass by a parasha like this, we can't help ourselves, but at least to try to put our finger into this subject and try to really understand it, and to take some candies and some sweets from this teaching in order for B'ezrat Hashem to understand our purpose in this world a little bit better. So now, but in order to understand this concept of a Gilgul, which, like we said, Gilgul means what? Reincarnation. We have to really see where it came from and why it even started and where it started. And this is something very interesting that almost nobody talks about. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, like we mentioned in the past, He created the world in a very unique manner. Whereas we know, our world was the last of 4 worlds that He put in place, and was the result of putting in place all what He did before that. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man, the Zohar HaKadosh says HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want to create creations like He created before. We wanted to create a creation which would be completely unique and be essentially one step right under Himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is where HaKadosh Baruch Hu came along and He built Adam HaRishon. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam, He really created something unique. And this is something that we don't, a lot of the times, put into perspective of how unique HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed us. Like we mentioned, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when He built the world, it contains 4 different worlds that He put in place. We're going to mention them quickly. It's something that we passed in the past in our classes. There's Atzilut, which is essentially the first world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. It's the world that we call the world of the faces, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to create different faces for Himself in order to create more creations. Second world, Beria. The world of Beria we call the world of the Neshamot, where after He created all these faces, Zer Anpin, Nukva, Abba, Ima, the Shekhinah, He was able to create what? You had this concept of masculine, feminine. When you have masculine and feminine, what usually comes afterwards? You have its offspring. The offspring of all those faces were the Neshamot. And that is why right under the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's different perspectives, there's the world of Neshamot. And this is what we call the world of the princes. Where the Neshamot are, after man, the highest form of creation after HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the world of Beria, the Neshamot, it says that all the other Malachim, angels, and all the other spiritual aspects that we're going to speak about in a moment, cannot jump between the worlds. They're bound to their world. A lot of times when you think about Malachim, you say, Malachim, angels, they're so lucky. They see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they see our world, they see the other worlds. Cannot be more wrong. Every world is locked to its own world. The same way we can't see them, they can't see us. Only very specific ones are able to jump from one to the other. Neshamot are that exception. Where Neshamot are the only creation that they call them like the prince. If the prince comes to the gate of the king, no gate watcher is going to stop him. He's going to let him pass from any place to any place. That is a Neshamot. Atzilut, first world, faces. Second world, Neshamot. Third world, Yetzirah. And in the third world of Yetzirah, it's essentially, we call it the world of the Malachim, the world of the angels, where there you have all the types of angels. And with that world, you have a spiritual aspect which is not an angel, which is called a Ruach. And then there is the last world, our world. We created the Nefesh. Like what you mentioned, Rabotai. All these worlds are actually completely separate from the other. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man, he wanted to create something unique. We didn't want to have, like all the other creation that are bound to their world, that cannot create, don't have freedom, don't have the ability of greatening. He wanted to create something new. So what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? Zohar HaKadosh says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had an idea. And this idea was to create a creation that will be present in all of the three worlds where there is spiritual creations. Meaning the fourth world, the first world, like we said, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's faces. There's no creations, all HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspectives. But the bottom three, there are many creations. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to create now a creation that will be present in all the worlds. So what did Hashem do? He went to every world, took the most prized possession of every world, brought them down to the last world, and attached them to Adam, and attached them to man. And that's why, when we talk about a person's spiritual heart, a person's spiritual being, it's not just a soul. Soul is very vague, because soul just talks about one spiritual piece that a person holds, but that could also bring big questions. To give an example of what questions you can come up with, if a person's soul goes up, why you go visit the body when they're buried? Many misunderstandings that you can come to if you just have this realization that there is just one spiritual aspect, the soul. So we know that the Zohar HaKadosh says that a person has actually 5 spiritual pieces, where they are compiled of, there is a physical body, and within that physical body there is a spiritual body. And those are Neshama, from the world of Beriah, Ruach, from the world of Yetzirah, like we mentioned, Nefesh, from the world of Asiyah, and then there's Chaya and Yechida. Chaya and Yechida. Chaya and Yechida are very unknown, where we almost know nothing about them. We know that they go to the highest world of Atzilut, meaning they are a spark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. But we have no clue of how they work, and when they come down, when they don't come down. Even in the Zohar, there's no conversation about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam in this manner of holding presence in all of the worlds for 2 purposes. The first purpose would be in a positive manner, and the first purpose would be Chas v'Shalom in a negative manner. Where he didn't just do this for no reason, attaching all the worlds together through one creation, man. He did it for this reason. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, as I created the world now, it's going to stay. And unless I don't build more and expand it, it's not going to change either. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to create a creation that can take what I created till now and make it grow. So, by creating Adam and by attaching him to all of the worlds, if Adam would act properly and do Torah and do mitzvot and bring more spirituality and create more spirituality, as a result, what will grow with Adam? All the 4 worlds. Where HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Adam the power of greatening every single world to limits that, to places even HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not put in place in the beginning. And that is one reason why he essentially built man with such a power of being present in all four worlds. And the second reason, because Chas v'Shalom, what would happen if Adam would sin? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if he's going to sin, all the judgment is going to be concentrated only on him, and as a result of that, he's just going to end up being erased from existence, and then I'm going to have to recreate. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I have to find a way to create a Shivim Mishkal, to spread out the weight, to spread out his presence, that if he will sin, the damage will be less in every single place. And as a result, there will be a concept of reparation, of teshuvah. And not chas v'shalom, make Adam HaRishon in a position that if he does wrong, there is no return. So it's like if you have a table, and you have a big amount of weight. You're going to put all the weight on one corner, what's going to happen? The fruit under it's going to collapse and break. Take the weight, spread it on all four corners, the table will stand. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. By attaching the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, the chaya, and the yichida to Adam HaRishon, he created an upside where man could grow and build all the world at one shot, and created a worst case scenario that if destruction comes, no world would be destroyed. Zohar HaKadosh says, when Adam HaRishon came along and he sinned, he actually brought damage to two big aspects. The first aspect that he brought the damage to was to our world, where the world of Asiyah, the bottom world, split to two pieces, and now spiritual and physical did not live like one intertwined. Where now us, Bnei Israel, our job is to do what? To take the physical, whether if it's food, whether if it's leather, whether if it's a building, and finding a way to pull down a spiritual aspect and put them together. And that is essentially our job as Bnei Israel. When Adam sinned, he not only broke the world of Asiyah, but he also split the physical and spiritual from our world. But the damage did not just limit, like we mentioned, in the world of Asiyah. Due to what? Due to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu connected Adam to all the four worlds. So now the damage was slightly in every single world, and all the pressure was not put on our world. But there was a mistake, a problem that was created by doing so. What was that problem? That Adam HaRishon brought to a blemish, a destruction to the neshama. And the neshama is the prince of Olamot Eiluim. And this is where the damage is essentially the damage that till today we're working on. Where when Adam sinned, he took his neshama, which the entire world of neshamot was leaning on, and he completely brought them to a place of being unperfect. We blemished them. We moved things around in a negative manner. But now there was a big problem. Now even if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to repair the world, he can't fix the world of Asiyah because there is shards of broken neshamot, or one big broken neshama, that got absorbed by material manner. Where he cannot fix the world as long as there is neshamot stuck in our world. And that was a destruction. Because a blemished neshama has no place on going to what we call paradise. So now HaKadosh Baruch Hu found himself in a place where not only the world needs a reparation as the world of Asiyah, but now the neshamot themselves will need to be repaired. And this is something that we need to separate in our mind. When we talk about tikkun, reparation, we need to separate between tikkun olam, reparation of this world, and tikkun neshama, and reparation of neshama, of one's personal neshama that he holds within himself. These are two things that need to be separated completely. Because at the time of the sin of Adam HaRishon, the destruction was distributed to both of these places in completely different manners. Zohar Kadosh said, when the Nishamot got destroyed and they were stuck in this world, what body absorbed them? This is something that nobody speaks about. The animals. Where the concept of reincarnation still did not exist in men. Where all the broken shards of the Nishamot, Adam failed as a creation, they went to the lower one creation under. And as we know, we have 4 different types of creation. There's inanimate, domim, which is like metal, water, sand, ground, rock, material that essentially has no life to it. Now, the life that we perceive it to have on a physical manner is also a way of us understanding to what level of spiritual life it holds. Make sense? Meaning, depending on how much lifeful it is as a material, is also equal to how much life it has on a spiritual level. So, domem is at the bottom of the bottom, inanimate. Rock, it has almost zero spiritual presence, but holds spiritual presence. One above that, there is the trees. Trees, tzomeach, trees, leaves, flowers, fruits, where it's like inanimate, but still clearly has more life. One level above, chaya, animals, sheep, cow, chicken, bird, pigeon. One level above, medaber, man. When man failed, all the shards of the nishamot fell into the animals. And that is how the order of reincarnations was for hundreds of years. Where for hundreds of years, all the nishamot were going from one animal to the next. And clearly that is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't see much value in men. Where in that generation, 10 generations afterwards, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do to the world? No. He cleaned out the world, erased all man, and kept a group of animals with one man inside. What was the purpose behind this? Because the nishamot did not rest within man. They rested all within the animals, and specifically within the kosher animals. And that is why all those hundreds of years, there is no talking about who lived, what did they do, whether or not they built, whether or not they destroyed, who their kids were, because they didn't matter. Because on a spiritual level, they were just walking animals. The one that really held the neshama, which is essentially the prince of all the creations, was the animals, the sheep, the cows. And this was present, and we can see at the generation of Noach, where the Zohar Kadosh says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, there wasn't a thought of even the idea of one creation eating the next. In the sense that whenever we see this concept of eating animal as something that is normal, Zohar Kadosh says it's actually completely not normal. Where the way man was created was to be vegetarian, to eat only leaves. When the generation of Noach came along, the Zohar Kadosh says HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Noach start to eat the cows and the sheep and the chicken. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that these nishamot are not going anywhere. They can't fix themselves, and because they can't fix themselves, there is no reparation of the aspect of the nishamot. So here is where we start to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's push on the idea of reincarnation and of repairing those nishamot. Zohar Kadosh said that even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu led the reincarnation from animal to animal, it wasn't effective. Because how many cows could people eat? And how many cows that we eat, we actually do them properly and do the bracha and uplift the spark that is hidden within the material? Very rare.
What does it do to eat the cow?
So when you take the cow and you eat it, you're essentially taking the physical of the cow itself and introducing the spiritual aspect of it. By doing bacha, by doing the shechita properly, by taking the blood and spilling it on the earth. There's many secrets behind doing shechita. It's not just shechita in a factory like they do today. The shechita, there's a lot of secrets. Even there's mikubalim that had special prayers that you have to do at the time of shechita. So it's not something simple that we see today. So when you hear this concept of eating meat, there's actually big inyan behind it. There's big importance behind it, and especially eating it properly and doing the bacha, doing bacha chona. So it's not for no reason. But in this order, reparation was taking a long time. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu came up with some sort of solution, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to find a way to allow all those neshamot to take control into their own hands and to have the ability to repair themselves, and not like with a cow that someone needs to come along and repair it. And this is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu says he started the chain by bringing Avraham Avinu alav Hashem to the world. Now realize, all our forefathers, they had one trade. What was the trade? All the forefathers, shepherds. Why shepherds? Zohar HaKadosh says, because they all were dealing not with the actual sheep of the trade of growing sheep and walking them, but their trade, that their daily day-to-day was being shepherd, but not shepherding the physical aspect of those sheep and cows, but trying to shepherd and trying to lead the spiritual neshama that all those cows carried and all those sheep carried. And he started with Avraham. Chesed. Right after Avraham, he needed to now create a building, so he needed to do steps. He brought Yitzchak, which Yitzchak took that to another level. For him himself, he gave himself like a korban. And after he brought Yitzchak, he brought Yaakov. And here Yaakov would be the tipping point of not only the reparation of the world, but the reparation of the world of Nishamot. Which, like we said, are two aspects that need to be repaired in order to bring the world to its original state. And this is where we see Yaakov in Alav Shalom goes to the test of Lavan Arasha. Oh, Lavan. Yaakov went with Lavan. Zohar HaKadosh says, asks essentially a beautiful question. Why us Bnei Israel were called Bnei Israel? Why not call us Bnei Avraham? Why Bnei Israel? Why not Bnei Yitzchak? Why Bnei Israel named after Yaakov? Because Yaakov is Israel. So Zohar HaKadosh is something incredible. He says, we know that when Yaakov left his father's house, he studied for 14 years in Yeshivat Shem Be'ever, and right after that, where did he go? He went to Lavan. And in Lavan's house, he would work as a shepherd. Zohar says, why is it that Yaakov got dragged so many years of suffering by Lavan? That's number one. And number two, didn't our matriarchs have something to do with dragging Yaakov in the house of Lavan the Rasha? What was the purpose of all this? So Zohar HaKadosh is something like this. Zohar HaKadosh said, when Yaakov arrived to Lavan's house, how many sheep did Lavan have? 70. The moment Yaakov Avinu Alav Shalom started to lead the flock of sheep of Lavan, when he was finished, how many were left? How many sheep did Yaakov have? Ribo. What is Ribo? 600,000. Are these numbers familiar to us? 70, and then a matter of very quickly 600,000? Bnei Israel. Bnei Israel. As we know, when Yaakov Alav Shalom went down to Egypt with his family, how many followed him? 70. Why 70? Zohar HaKadosh is something like this. Zohar HaKadosh says there were 70 aspects of Neshamot that needed to be repaired in order to bring the world to a place of shlemut, of perfection. When Yaakov Alav Shalom went to Lavan's house, each one of those 70 aspects were all stuck in those 70 sheep. And Yaakov Alav Shalom needed to take those 70 sheep, and he needed to bring from them the aspect of every single one of Bnei Israel. Because they were very, very deep, they were very, very big. It wasn't enough to have one. So it says that all those years, Yaakov in Hashem, what was he doing? He was taking every single neshama that was stuck in the form of a sheep, and he was releasing them from that position and uplifting them one level of spiritual life, which is what is right over Chai? Medaber, man. Only here, Yaakov in Alav Shalom prepared the world of Neshamot to be in a place where now they can start coming in the form of man. And that is where we see that right after Yaakov in Alav Shalom leaves Lavan's house, there is 600 sheep in his flock. Representing what? Representing every single one of the 600,000 Jews that left Bnei Israel. And every single one of those sheep of Yaakov that Yaakov led was another neshama of Bnei Israel that was stuck in that position. And here we see Bnei Israel, 70, go down to Egypt. And after 200 years, how many are they? 600,000.
Don't we say only 20% left Egypt?
600,000.
The 600,000 of the...
There was 9 million Jews.
100,000 men?
9 million Jews in Egypt. At the time of the plague of Choshech, 2 out of 3 of every single Jew passed away. So if you take 2 out of 3 of 9, what comes out? 3 million. Where when Bnei Israel left Egypt, there was 3 million, but only 600,000 were in the count of from a certain age to a certain age. So the children and the women, we didn't count them in that count of Bnei Israel that left. But Bnei Israel left from a certain age. That's what we're going to read, B'at Hashem, hopefully in a few parashot, were 600,000.
Can I clarify? You said before, when Adam made the sin, he would go down the level to the level of Chaya. And when Yaakov, he took the Chayot and
He uplifted them one level to
instead of going down another level, they went up a level to Medaber, and those were the
Exactly.
that went up.
Yaakov's job was to uplift them, because what is the punishment of being brought in the form of an animal? You can't repair yourself. You need someone to come along by chance and repair you.
Because you don't have the free will.
Exactly. In order to bring that neshama to a place of reparation of himself, he needs to be in the form of man. Because free will only belongs to man. Only man could repair, fix himself, and repair, fix others. When Bnei Israel left Egypt, both a physical, our world, and on a neshama level, Bnei Israel were repaired. And that's what we say. Bnei Israel, when they arrived to Har Sinai, Ish Echad, Belev Echad. Why Ish Echad, Belev Echad? What's the connection? Because all the neshamot fell back into place in the exact same order they were when they all stood in Adam. With the exact same way that Adam HaRishon was one man standing in the world, but all the neshamot were included within him, Bnei Israel brought themselves to that aspect. The world was repaired. The world came to a place of what? Of complete reparation on every aspect. From that point on is the word of the Gilgulim. But Bnei Israel did a big mistake. What was Bnei Israel's mistake? They got up and they built what? They built an Egel Hazav. Which the Egel Hazav is already a very strange concept, which it essentially mixed. This is just a side note, nothing to do with the class. Erev Rav, Micha, and 2 sons of Bil'am. So the 2 sons of Bil'am were within the Erev Rav. Micha was a Jew that Moshe saved, that they lived on the river, so he saw Moshe Rabbeinu, and Aharon's help. That's how they built it. When Bnei Israel sinned with the golden calf, they brought an extremely big destruction, not only to Medaber, to their neshamot once again, but they even brought destruction to every single aspect of the hierarchy of spiritual levels. Where Egel Hazav was gold, an element, that they brought life into it, like a chai. So when Bnei Israel sinned with the golden calf, they actually brought a destruction, not only to the man, but to the chai, 2 to the domem, and 2 to the tzomech.
Oh.
To all the levels. And this is where the famous and well-known concept of reincarnation started to come to play. Where man gets reincarnated from one to the other because all the aspects were destroyed. But you know about that question that we can all ask. This is something that we're thinking of today. We know that if a person sin, like Bnei Israel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a special place for people that sin. What is it called? Gehenna. Why couldn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu just send them to Gehenna quickly? What is the difference between Gehenna and between reincarnation? And why couldn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu just bring that fix to Bnei Israel after that sin of the golden calf and finish Sipur? We don't get into this concept of life after life after life after life.
Chances.
So Rabbi Moshe Cordovero de Ramak, the teacher of Arizal, actually brings a beautiful teaching on this concept. So Ramak says, what is the difference between these two punishments? Gehenna and Gilgul. So Ramak says, first of all, we have to understand on what is each one repairing. The Ramak said, first of all, Gehenna is not reparation. There is no reparation in Gehenna. There is cleaning. Where whenever a person wants to clean something that is dirty, what do you apply? To loosen up all what's stuck to it? A little heat. You put some heat, you rub it well, and you can clean it. The heat's not going to fix it. It might clean it very well, but not fix it. Gehenna is a very, very hot washing machine. It takes neshamot that are repaired, fixed, but dirty, and allows it to get well cleaned. And once it's cleaned, it could go up to its resting place. Or in other words, the Ramak actually talks in praise about how Gehenna looks. He says Gehenna is an amazing place. It's an amazing place. You go 11 months.
It's not a tikkun.
It is. It's not because tikkun is reparation. It's nikui. It's cleaning. So Gehenna, according to Ramak, is actually a very good thing. That means that the neshama is repaired enough where it has no need for any changes. Just a cleaning from the dirt that we all have throughout the day-to-day life. But then you can go up to Olamot Elyonim and rest and finished. Its job is done.
So where do they go? The real Reshaim that they cannot...
The real Reshaim get sent back Begilgul.
Meaning what?
They get sent back down to the world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, fix what is not dirty, what is broken. And this is why the Ramak says that the Gilgulim are actually 10, 20, 30 times worse than Gehenna. And he gives an analogy. He says, it's like people come to a man. They tell him, we represent the king. The king wants you to go to buy a merchandise. He says, where do I have to go? They say, you were in America, you have to go now to Asia. What's the first question every person would ask? Okay, what? You're sending me on this mission. What am I supposed to buy? Ramak says those people look at him and they tell him, go. He says, but Ribbono Shalom, tell me what I'm supposed to repair. Go. And the man needs to pick up, take his bags, travel years, walk in the desert, walk in the rain, take a boat, take a train, take a horse, years of travel, arrive to the place. He has no money to buy the merchandise. Work to buy merchandise. Find the merchandise, buy it, carry it, travel all those years, return. And then when you come to the people, they say, you bought the wrong merchandise. Return. That is the concept of the Gilgulim. Much worse than Gehenna. But Ramak says a big problem is embedded in a big michshol, obstacle, and a tendency for destruction is created with this system. Where that man could not only go and return and bring back the wrong merchandise, but also have a chance of something else coming into the equation. Zohar says, what is that? Zohar is on the way. What if he stole from somebody? Those people are going to want what he stole back. On the way, maybe he got some kings upset. Those kings might come back to get what belongs to them. We're in the nature of the Gilgulim, of the reincarnations to go to fill a specific task, there's another problem that enters into the equation. The problem of between merchant to merchant. Between that one person that you sent to go buy the merchandise and the other person you're going to send the merchandise. And this, Rabotai, is, according to the Ramak, the biggest problem of leading to the redemption. Where the problem will not even be tikkun olam, reparation of the world, but will be a problem of what? A problem of nishamot. A problem of between nishama to nishama. And this, Rabotai, is something This, Rabotai, is actually something that we all need to put into our thought process. Zohar Kadosh opens up with this parasha. Ilin denaya de star kadmohun. What does that mean? Zohar Kadosh opens up and says the laws of the nishamot are very ancient and very complex. Very ancient and very complex. For what purpose? For what reason? Not because of its complexity between itself and Hashem, but its complexity between every single neshama. Where in this design of how the reincarnations are happening, there is space where not only one doesn't repair his own neshama, but adds on it another debt between neshama to neshama. And as we know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power to forgive what? To forgive a sin that is done between man and Hashem, but does not have the ability to repair between who? Between man to man. And that's what the Arizal says. Arizal says, at the times coming close to the Geulah, the world will be repaired. This actually brings us to a big question that we all have. You know, in the last 5,000 years, there were big tzaddikim. There were tzaddikim that were able to bring people back from the dead. There were tzaddikim that were able to do things that are not only above nature, above all logic. They couldn't repair the world for thousands of years. Arizal said, yes, they did. But the problem is that even if they repaired the world, throughout all those thousands of years, what debt was being created? Debt between neshama to neshama. Flaw, sin between one person to the next. And that's what the Zohar HaKadosh says. The times of the Biat HaGeulah, the times leading up to the coming of Mashiach, a person needs to be extremely careful with every single interaction that he has with another. Because Arizal brings this Zohar, and says every single interaction that one has between a person and between his friend is not just an interaction for no reason, but an interaction that was brought in order to close the link. To the point where Arizal says, you walked in the street, you looked at someone for a second, they looked at you, both of you needed to be there at the same time. And that is in order to repair that one aspect. And until that one aspect is repaired, the Geulah will never be able to come at a time of what? At a place of Ahava, of us being righteous. And this is, Rabotai, our job in this world. And when we reach this concept of Achdut, of unity, a lot of people had it. They hear it from the morning to the night. Achdut, 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 Achdut. Love one another, love one another. No, be'emet. We came to a place where we even start to lose value of it. But in the reality, the real essence of the reparation we all need to do as individuals is a reparation of what? Between one to the other. Any destruction done between one to the other only pushes away the Geulah. And this Rabotai brings us to a very famous and very familiar concept that we talk about many times throughout the year, Choban Bet HaMikdash. You know, Choban Bet HaMikdash is the very first Bet HaMikdash in the first place. It's a very interesting concept. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu had Bet HaMikdash built, it was not necessarily the end goal of the world. If we take this timing of Bet HaMikdash, it's a little bit strange on understanding of what was the world in that state. We know that a perfect world is a world without sin, without death, without Yitzhara, evil inclination, a world pure. If so, what was Bet HaMikdash from the first place? Because clearly when Bet HaMikdash was built, the world stayed how it was, to the point where there was even an enemy to get up to destroy it. So what was the reason and the purpose behind Bet HaMikdash from the first place? So Zohar HaKadosh is simple. Bet HaMikdash was brought down for one purpose. Tikkun Olam. Reparation of the world. Reparation of one aspect that will need to be fixed in order to bring the Geulah. But not reparation of the second. Which is what? Tikkun HaNeshama. Between Neshama to Neshama. And that is why, what was the cause of the destruction of Bet HaMikdash? Sinat Chinam. Because after so much sin that man was doing between one to the other, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, now the destruction is not even anymore the world, so there's no need for Bet HaMikdash, get rid of it. Where the destruction was between man to man. And that's why we say that the exact same reason that God Bet HaMikdash destroyed will be the reason that will get it built. Which is what? If hatred between one another and sin between one another got destroyed, what will get it built? Love, achva, being fair with another, helping one another. That is actually, Rabotai, not in a vague word of being righteous. That is actually the steps that need to happen in order for us to be able to bring the Geulah. And that is why, Rabotai, we all need to all start looking at every single interaction, whether if it is a positive interaction or whether it is a negative interaction, as a closing of one link between two neshamot. Or sometimes, Rabotai, we live our life and certain things happen between one another. Either it could be something very good, or a person comes and hugs us and kisses us and gives us a gift. And we say, when did you send this person to me? Or rather, it could be something chas v'shalom bad, where someone comes and gives him the makkah. And we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why me? The answer is, not you, who you were before. Or in the previous life, wherever you were before, that is the answer. And Chafetz Chaim actually talks about this and gives a beautiful analogy. He says, one time, I went to a shul. When I arrived to the shul, I saw there was a gabbai. Not Rabbi Rafael gabbai, but a gabbai. What is a gabbai? One who runs the shul, which is a very hard position. A lot of scrutiny falls upon a person that runs a yeshiva. It says, Senai Tarabanut. Whoever leads a community lives a short life. To the point where even Yosef HaTzadik, he died one of the first of all his siblings. Why? Because he was a king. Something else for another shiur. The gabbai was standing on Shabbat, and he was giving out aliyot. So every single one of the members of the community has a time to come up to go to the Torah. And there was a guest amongst that community. The guest is looking at the gabbai. See, the gabbai is doing things very strange. The gabbai is taking one person from that corner, one person from that corner, one person from that corner, and he's taking one from each place and he's bringing them to the Torah. So this guest said, this gabbai is Rasha. He's not giving everyone the opportunity to go up to the Torah. So he ran up to him. He told me, he said, I have a question for you. You have an entire community here. Do order. Put one at a time, like that. Eventually, by the end of the year, every congregate will have the merit to go up to the Torah. Chafetz Chaim told the gabbai, Chafetz Chaim said, the gabbai looked at this man and answered him in a manner like this. He said, my fellow Jew, the problem is not how we're giving out the mitzvot. Where there's no flaw in the order and how we're doing things. The problem is that you don't come Monday and Thursday. And because you don't come Monday and Thursday, you don't see the order of who is sitting, and you don't know, and you're not able to see that we are actually giving out the aliyot in a specific order. And that is actually, Rabotai, what Chafetz Chaim says, is every single step of our life. When we enter our life, we don't understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu does this and HaKadosh Baruch Hu does that, and why he passes from him to him, and why HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushes that one first and pulls that one back. And we have all these questions. The Chafetz Chaim says, only if you came 2 lives ago, you understand exactly. You took from him, he needs to take from you. He did that to him, he needs to do that to him in return. Where every single interaction that we have, Rabotai, is an interaction of bringing the Geulah one step closer. But that depends on one thing, on how we manage that interaction. Are we going to make this interaction a positive interaction? Or are we going to take this interaction, make it a negative interaction? We have the ability every single day, every single moment of our lives to bring a reparation to the world just of how we act with one another. And that is, Rabotai, something that we want everyone truly to take Arizal's word for it. Every sort of connection that we make between Jew to a Jew needs to be a positive one. And that's what the Zohar Kadosh says, that one person has the ability to save the entire world. Why is that? So the Zohar Kadosh is very simple. Because if one person does one good interaction, that one good interaction causes one man to do another good interaction. That one good interaction causes another one to do another good interaction. And slowly by slowly it spreads and spreads and spreads. And then you have Tikkun Olam. Then you have the recipe for Biat HaGeulah. And that is how, Rabotai, each and every one of us need to start to looking at not only our day-to-day lives, but how we interact with every single person. Baruch Hashem, Hashem Yirachem, and Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He created things in today's day and age where it's never been more easy to interact with so many people. Where today you ask somebody how many friends he has, they'll have 5,000. 5,000, you barely have 2. I see you with the same person every day. So you don't have 5, you have 2. He says, no, I have 5,000. Because he has the ability to interact with 5,000 people in one shot. Imagine about how much impact we have today. And it's not for no reason. You know, we always say in the classes that the Geulah will not come from miracles, it will come from technology. With the ability that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the knowledge to people, that will be the cause and the push of the redemption. Today, every single regular person has a reach to the amount of people that presidents have. Only 100 years ago. We have to be able to take those tools and to take that ability and always direct towards the positive. We want to bring Shefa and want to bring Bacha into our lives. And that, Rabotai, is the whole secret and the teaching of the Gilgulim. But this, Rabotai, is actually something very important that we would like to share with all the young and single here, that also as well have a big attachment to the Gilgulim. As we know, with interactions with people, there are many different interactions that people can have. There is interaction that could be financial. There's interaction that could be one hurting or benefiting one another. And then there's another interaction that has a big spiritual impact, which is the interaction of a man and a woman coming together and getting married. Rabbi Nachman Breslev writes in multiple places. It's close to the time of the Geulah. The young will have a very hard time finding their zivug. Where the sentence of Kasha zivug shel adam kikat yam suf, it is as hard as finding zivug like the tearing of the sea, couldn't be more applicable, couldn't be more accurate like today's generation. And Rabbi Nachman Breslev answers and explains. As we know, leading to the time of the Geulah, there will be thousands of years of neshamot that have open links, they have to be closed. Within these links, like we mentioned, there will be some that will be financial, some will be physical, some will be emotional, and also some will be in the sector of marriage. Rabbi Nachman Breslev says, all these neshamot are going to have to come down to the world leading up to the Geulah. Because in order for the Geulah to come, on all aspects, the world and the neshamot to be repaired. So Rabbi Nachman Breslev says, what will HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pressure and throw 3 times the amount of neshamot to the amount of body that exists in our world. And as a result of that, push the reparation forward faster. But as an outcome, we come to a place where every single person has not the ability, but the obligation to fulfill many different zivugim. And this is why Rabbi Nachman says, at the time of the Biyat HaGeulah, people will be confused on which woman to take, on which one to go for. Why? Because within each one, there is an aspect that needs to repair. And this is why Rabbi Nachman says, at the time when the Geulah will come close, people will need to meet people a lot quickly. And this is actually the Satan of this generation. We see people, when it comes up to Shidduchim, they become machmir, but in a level of Hashem Yirachem. They ask blood type, what type of Hashem Yirachem DNA, where did your DNA comes from? Are you Persian? Or you half Persian? No, you're a little bit Iraqi, I cannot touch that. All these details of without even giving an opportunity, they push it aside. And that's actually the result of a good job of the Satan. Where the Satan knows that in order to bring these neshamot to a place where they could get married, they need to close 3, 4, 5, maybe 100 links. And this is what Rabbi Nachman says. At the time of Biyat HaGeulah, all the people that need to get married will need to see a lot of people. Or in other words, not be so picky to give it a try. Because as long as we don't give it a try, we're not able to what? Pass on to the next one. And that's what Rabbi Nachman says. Every person you meet for zivug brings what closer? Brings your true zivug closer. Because every single person you meet, you close the link, put them aside, bring another one. And we all have the obligation, each person on a different level, to fix a different amount of nishamot. That's why for all the young, we have to be hafif. We have to be light. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu put a specific person in front of you, it's for a reason. You have to create some sort of interaction. Of course, Betzniut, in the path of the Kedusha and the Tahara, but in today's generation, that people go by all these details that are completely nonsense. The Geulah will not come like that. We need Rabotai to look at the simple aspects of our life and understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu put them in front of us, and if there is a reason. And of course, if He put them in front of us, there is a big reason. And in this case, Rabotai, it is the repairing of this world in order to bring a repaired world, in order to bring the redemption to come. And that's what Rabotai, we say, Ilin Denad Istakadmon, it's not for no reason. The laws of the Nishamot and the laws of Gilgulim are not only very ancient, but extremely complex. Because one could owe this, another one could owe that, and all of them need to be closed, and all of them need to be linked before the redemption will come. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem give all of us the ability, the koach, the inspiration, the knowledge to be in the right direction, to be able to channel the right energy and the right kedusha and the right ma'asim tovim, in order that we will all Be'ezrat Hashem repair not only our world, but ourselves, which is what compares to a world of its own. And with that, the merit of the tzaddik Rabbi Pinto, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem, we spit on all the tzaddikim, big b'siyata d'ishmaya. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem will open up the gates of Parasha, and the gates of Yeshua, and the gates of Zivug. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem will spit on us Shefat v'Didai, that all our prayers will be accepted b'ratzon, and we will all Be'ezrat Hashem be in the path where we are supposed to be. Amen. Is there any questions? A little bit deep class, but en malasut. We everyone wants a Zohar class. We got a Zohar class, Baruch Hashem.
I have a question.
Ken.
Correct me if I'm off somewhere. We said that from the time of the generation before Egel Azav, the Gilgulim were coming back in animals.
Only animals.
So because in the Egel Azav we destroyed all the worlds, starting from gold, which is the most inanimate to us, we ruined all the worlds. Right? So the Gilgulim...
all the aspects of life in this world.
Okay, so the Gilgulim afterwards, they came back...
in everything. In everything.
But in a way...
it became a mess.
But in a way, we did something better than was previously happening, because we said before that when man went to the Gilgul of animal, he couldn't make the reparation because the animal didn't have the free choice.
Yes and no. Because now,
but they did us a favor in a way, letaken, right? Because now instead of being, only gilgulim to animal, which we couldn't even repair, we're able to be in gilgulim of
so we have
man again.
we have two answers to that. First of all, I am sure it's easier to lead 100,000 sheep than to lead 2 people. That's number one. To direct 100,000 sheep, 1,000,000 sheep in one direction is easier than leading one person.
And that's why you can't make
So that is number one.
right? That's why you can't make tikkun from going from an animal.
Exactly. You have to uplift it. That's why the Zohar Kadosh says, Mechila Ramak in Chassidut Gimel, it says that it compares neshama and angel. So Rabbi Moshe Cordovero in Parasha is very, very deep. So he goes, let's compare both creations. What's the difference between a neshama and an angel? So the difference of a neshama and an angel, that a neshama can take an angel and tear him down levels, and also a neshama could take an angel and uplift him levels, while an angel stays in the path that he's in. So within a person, he has the ability to take from one level to the next. So yes, you have to uplift it from animal to man, but that is also done when you eat animal. So how does it work? How does the reparation of the world start? It starts from domem, inanimate, and reaches to up there. How does it work? It's with the smallest aspects of our world. There is dirt, inanimate. A little bit water falls on the dirt, inanimate water as well. What grows from it? Some weeds. The spiritual level of the plants now, of the inanimate, just went up a level. Because now that we water our dirt, with man watering, we took 2 inanimate and we made a tzomach, a higher level of life. With that higher level of life, we take the angel of the dirt, Aramak says, and we bump him up a level. Push him up a level. The sheep came along, our sheep, ate from those leaves, took that spiritual aspect of the leaf, and where did he put it? What happens to that leaf? It becomes a part of what? It becomes a part of the animal because he eats it. Most of it goes out, but what needs to stay stays and sustains the animal. And then when we eat the animal, we lift it up to man, and that man with the bracha, we send it up to Shammai. So that is the concept of Tikkun Olam. In short, we get a long teaching, so we hope it was clear. So it was a good thing that from that point it was on all levels, but also a big mess at the time of Egel Hazav, because now it's spread out on many different levels. First of all, the sparks were hidden in all the forms of life, but they were also hidden throughout the world. So, to bring us back, and this is a beautiful chiddush that we're just thinking about now. When the world was destroyed, there was 288 sparks that were given to the hand of the Satan. And the Satan took them and embedded them, and he was able to hide them, essentially. And it was in the hands of man to go collect them. Satan said, where am I going to hide these sparks? Which essentially, these sparks are pieces of neshamot. He said, where am I going to hide these sparks? So he said, I'm going to go to the most unpure place in the world and put them in the most unpure living. Where was that? Egypt, the darkness of the world. Where did he put the sparks in Egypt? In the darkest place in Egypt. What's the darkest place in Egypt? Idol worship. What was the idol worship of the Egyptians? The sheep. So there was order. It was all in one line of creation. All the sparks were in the sheep. The darkness of Mitzrayim, locked, finished. When they sinned with the golden calf, the Satan said, now I'm free to go. So what did the Satan do? The Satan Zohar says, I'm not going to hide all the sparks in one place like I did. Now I'm going to hide them and spread them all around the world in all the different aspects. And that's what we've been doing for the past thousands of years. Traveling from one place to the other. We live in Nassan. Why are we in Nassan? We should be in Eretz Israel. Because we're supposed to be here. Because the Satan hid those sparks all around the world. So, the mess and the lack of order that was done by the sin of the golden calf was very big. It took them 210 years to repair the world. It's taking us thousands, and who knows if we're going to be able to do it even. So we have a different question for you, Abi Tan. I've been there, we have a question for you, Tzaddik. Everyone's a Gilgulim, Nachon? Reincarnation. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu will resurrect the dead, Tchat HaMetim, which body will wake up? 5 people, 5 bodies, 1 neshama kept on returning.
All 5.
The Torah compares neshama to what? Whenever the Torah compares something to something, whoever will take it to its simplicity has no knowledge. Whenever the Torah compares, or Chazal compares something to something, look deep into it and you will see how many levels of similarities it holds. What are the neshamot compared to? When we want to glorify neshama, what do? No, neshama that's no longer alive, what do? We light a candle. Why? From the pasuk it says, Ki ner Hashem nishmat adam, that the candle is the neshama of man. Candle has a very unique nature. If you take a candle and you put it next to another wick, what will happen?
Another what?
Wick.
What's going to happen? You're going to split the fire in 2. But the flames did not become smaller. And you can take that flame and split it, and split it, and split it, and split it, and split it. Endless amount of times. And every single entity has its own piece. Now, how can multiple people wake up from one neshama? So, and this also answers the question, and technically on default the world only gets worse and worse and worse. No. HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts with the world in kindness. What does he do? This can bring us to a question that's not fair. A neshama came down, repaired 70%. 30% misken wasn't able to do. Are you going to send him down? He's going to destroy the 70 that he repaired. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mercy on the neshamot. So what does he do? Takes a neshama, he says, look, you cleaned the majority of it, misken. Takes the neshama, splits between the good and bad. The good, he makes its own individual entity, sends to Gan Eden. The bad says, you have your own level of reparation, go down to the world. And that is how every single neshama has its own unique tikkun. Because whatever the other one didn't repair and left off came down as a new entity.
It's the worst part of it.
It has 100% to repair, but 100% of whatever was bad and left from the last.
It's smaller.
It's smaller.
So every generation is not as strong, as powerful as the last one. Because we see it also, we have all
Yeridat HaDorot, that is the point of Yeridat HaDorot. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu... What were you saying?
Let's recap.
So Moshe Rabbeinu, how can Moshe Rabbeinu come back with Gilgul? Moshe Rabbeinu did not finish one thing. He didn't bring down the 3rd type of Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, when he went up to Shamayim, he fought the angels. We spoke about this on Shabbat actually. When he fought the angels had one excuse. He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why are you giving the Torah down to people when it belongs up here? Zohar HaKadosh says that on the Gemara, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell Moshe Rabbeinu? He said, Echos b'kisei kevodi, tell him tshuva. Hold on to my chair and answer them. What is the answer that Moshe Rabbeinu answered? Look at the angels and says, in the Torah it says, Lo tignov, don't steal. Can you steal? The angel said no. In the Torah it says, Kabete v'chabet imecha, respect your parents. Do you have parents? The angel said no. So in the Torah it says, don't murder. Can you murder? He said no. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, then the Torah belongs to me. But then the Gemara says the angels continued fighting to keep the Torah. So first of all, why were the angels fighting in the first place? Knowing that this Torah does not apply to them. They're not stupid, they understand. That is number one. And number two, after they were proven that Torah does not apply to them, why were they still fighting? So, as we know, it says in the Tehillim, Alita lamarom, Shavita shevi, lakachta matonot ba'adam. Moshe came up to the sky, took hostage, and he brought gifts to men. That is talking about who? About Shimon Bar Yochai. Where Arizal says that Moshe Rabbeinu did not have the strength to fight those malachim. So what did he do? He went to one of the safes of neshamot that were not supposed to come down to the world, and he took a neshama, which was the only neshama that had the ability to bring down Torah Tasod. The Torah, the secret, which is the Zohar HaKadosh. He took that neshama, he glued it to himself, And only then he had the power to fight all those angels. And only at that point he was able to send the Zohar HaKadosh in a tube to start the descent to the world. And that is why the Malachim were fighting. Not fighting on the Torah of don't steal, don't kill, respect your parents. But they were fighting the Torah of the Zohar HaKadosh, Torah Tasot. They were saying this Torah belongs to us. Why are you sending it to the world? So that is why on Moshe Rabbeinu's Ilula, coming up Be'ezrat Hashem in around 9 days, we fast on.
What?
We fast. Arizal says we need to fast. And all the Mekubalim fast.
Till Chatzot or the whole day?
No, the whole day. The entire a regular fast. Why? Ilula is supposed to be a celebration. So we say, because when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, he did not complete one mission that he wanted to complete. Actually, two. One, he didn't build Bet HaMikdash, so he had to return as Shlomo. And second, he didn't bring down the Zohar HaKadosh. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came and brought down the Zohar HaKadosh, he essentially completed not only Shlomo's tikkun, but Moshe's as well. And that's why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's Ilula is not just an Ilula for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but actually Ilula for Olam Yisrael. And that is why the gathering is bigger than any celebration that exists in the world of Jews. The Ilula of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Because it's not just a celebration of the tzaddik, it's a celebration of all the world.
I have one last question.
Ken.